In July 2008, a strange animal carcass was discovered on Montauk Beach. Part of it resembled a dog, part of it resembled a rat, and it even had a beak, like a bird. Experts who came to investigate said they had never seen anything like this creature before. The news spread wildly online, and people named it the Montauk Monster. Its origin became a baffling mystery. Before the Montauk Monster's buzz could fade away, another corpse was found in 2010. But this time, it wasn't an animal. It was a human body. The victim was reported to be a black male, around 6 feet tall. There were no visible injuries, but there were some disturbing details. His fingers were unusually long and slender, as if some kind of mutation had occurred. His skull had 5 holes drilled into it, but the brain was completely intact. Some experts claimed the head wounds appeared to be caused by a very professional surgical or experimental procedure. Before these events, there had already been urban legends circulating about the area, saying that the US government had a secret biological weapons research facility nearby, where live animals and even humans were experimented on. The rumored location was just 10 kilometers from Montauk Beach, at one of the most sinister and filthy places on Earth, Plum Island. Plum Island has long been a mysterious island, directly under US government control. The island is strictly off-limits, and even those with high-level security clearance cannot access it. The island strictly prohibits any unauthorized visits. Even those with high-level security clearance aren't allowed access. Only individuals who receive an invitation from Plum Island can set foot on it. Even boats lingering nearby are quickly driven away by unidentified armed personnel. The island's public-facing role is said to be for animal disease research, such as foot and mouth disease, African swine fever, and others. But the island's true history is much darker. In 1952, Plum Island was established to research anti-animal biological warfare, using animal-borne diseases to devastate enemy nations' livestock and farming industries, thereby disrupting their food supply chains. At the same time, Plum Island operated a secret lab, housing some of the deadliest bacteria in the world. Under the US government's Operation Paperclip, many former Nazi scientists and engineers were brought in, as the groundwork was laid even before World War II began. Germany had already been far ahead in this field. They discovered that, by infecting certain deadly viruses into insects, and then releasing those insects into the enemy's food supply chain, they could devastate hostile forces without firing a single shot. Among the many insects researched, ticks became the ideal biological weapon. They were small and hard to detect, with high survival and adaptability. Moreover, they fed on human blood, making them more effective at spreading disease. In 1954, an anonymous whistleblower, claiming to be a staff member at Plum Island Laboratory, revealed that the lab had produced large quantities of tick-based bioweapons. Though the island is surrounded by sea, within a 100-mile radius, there were millions of civilians living nearby. A lab leak would be catastrophic. Under mounting pressure, the US government eventually admitted to the activities on the island, but they also claimed that no biological weapons were being developed, and nothing could leave the island. However, later evidence proved that they lied, but later the truth revealed that they had lied. In 1971, Cuba experienced a mysterious outbreak of swine fever. Over 500,000 pigs died or had to be slaughtered, leading to a collapse in the local pork supply. Further research showed that the virus was a variant of African swine fever, with a high transmission rate and a frighteningly high fatality rate. What was strange was that, due to the unique geography of the Americas, African swine fever had never been seen in the Western Hemisphere before, even up to the present day. Cuba's mysterious swine fever outbreak. But we haven't set these specifics ourselves. We've merely established a rule through the program. Everything else unfolds naturally within the framework of that rule. For the computer-generated mushroom cloud, the program and the explosion exist in entirely different realms. Now, consider if we created a game. We establish a set of physical laws and allow humans to gather resources, build houses, repair roads, and mine for materials. Then we hit the start button. Remains the only occurrence in the Western Hemisphere. After some time passes, the landscape of this game world evolves. For the in-game characters, they have no idea that everything is driven by a program. They believe they are cutting down trees, actually building houses. In reality, they are simply executing code. They perceive the world as real, filled with substance, but it's just the code that convinces them of its reality. At that time, the only place in the Western Hemisphere. Of course, I'm not suggesting our world is virtual. I'm merely using this example to illustrate what Laozi's Tao might truly be. Perhaps Laozi's mysterious disappearance in his later years was akin to Neo's experience in the Matrix, seeing beyond the superficial layer of reality, venturing into a realm of greater truth, where he discovered a more authentic existence and ventured into a world of deeper reality. known to have live African swine fever virus, was Plum Island. Carl Grossman, a journalism professor at SUNY, remarked in an interview that during the Cold War, some socialist countries suffered from severe famines, and the true culprits behind them might have been bioweapons developed at Plum Island, along with the effects of weather modification weapons. However, the crimes committed by the Plum Island Biolab extended far beyond this. The US government had even experimented on its own citizens multiple times. In the 1930s, the infamous syphilis experiments were conducted on 400 African American men who were unknowingly involved. These men were deliberately infected with syphilis and left untreated. In 1950, Operation Sea Spray involved spraying bacteria over the entire city of San Francisco. In 1966, the US Army released bacteria in the New York subway, simulating a biological weapon attack. In 1975, a mysterious new disease started spreading across the east coast of the US. Patients showed symptoms of high fever, swollen joints, severe headaches, and in extreme cases, hallucinations. It eventually led to movement disorders and even paralysis. Medical experts named the disease Lyme disease. Later studies revealed that the illness was transmitted through tick bites. An epidemiological map indicated that Plum Island was once again a prime suspect. Bioweapons expert Willy Bergdorf revealed that early in his career, he had helped the US military develop biological weapons. Between 1966 and 1969 in particular, he weaponized as many as 300,000 ticks and released them into the wild. In just a few years, the safety of at least 450,000 Americans was put at risk. Aside from these deliberate acts, the lab had also experienced numerous accidental leaks. This continued until the present year, when mounting pressure from society. The Plum Island lab is set to close and will relocate to a new facility in Kansas, right in the heart of a major food supply center. In the end, all we can do is sincerely wish the poor citizens of Kansas the best of luck. Eat well, drink well, and keep a strong appetite. This concludes the second episode of Darkest Videos on the Internet, where each video has a chilling truth lurking behind it. On October 3, 2016, a hiker named James Blue Whale was trekking through a forest in Long Island, New York, when he stumbled upon a disturbing scene. It appeared to be a campsite, with a tent, fire-starting tools, and half-eaten food. But no one was around. What terrified him, however, were the tree trunks surrounding the camp, covered with 25 missing persons posters. It looked like the twisted lair of a deranged killer. James quickly searched online for information about the people on the posters. He found that this was no prank. These were real missing persons. He immediately called the police. The authorities then interviewed the nearest family living in the area. The police investigation began with questioning the closest residents. The family claimed that the things in the camp were just decorations for Halloween and said they would take everything down after the holiday. However, based on the evidence collected on site, the tents set up, the posters, and the scattered trash all suggested that this campsite had been there for several months, and Halloween, at the time the campsite was found, was still a month away. Setting up decorations this early just didn't make sense. It defied all logic. But in the end, due to a lack of evidence, although the local police were suspicious, they could only state that they would continue investigating the matter. However, to this day, the truth behind the incident remains unknown. In 2019, in Hong Kong, a man was leisurely fishing along the shore in a certain area when he saw a human-like shape floating on the water. The man immediately called the police and secured the object. After an examination by the authorities, it was identified as a young woman's body. She was about 1.5 meters tall, completely naked with no visible fatal injuries. Soon, the victim's identity was confirmed. The girl's name was Chu Yilin, a 15-year-old whose parents had been separated for years due to marital issues. So, she had been living in a girl's home for a long time. The police wanted to review the surveillance footage to understand what happened to Chu Yilin before the incident. But what they found only made the case more mysterious. The footage revealed that 3 days before her body was discovered, Chu Yilin exhibited many strange behaviors. First, she was walking barefoot on campus, wandering aimlessly, looking distressed. She pressed the elevator button 3 times, but turned away before the elevator arrived. Eventually, Chu Yilin left the school, walking in the direction of the seashore. She then disappeared from the camera's view. The police initially suspected that she had drowned. However, upon investigation, they found that Chu Yilin had swimming training and had even won swimming competitions at school. Furthermore, this did not explain why she was found completely naked, while her outer clothes could have been swept away by the current. It was unlikely for her undergarments to also vanish. By the time the body was found, it was severely decomposed, and any potential evidence had likely been washed away by the seawater. And so, to this day, no one knows what exactly Chu Yilin went through before her death. This was supposed to be a wedding anniversary celebration, but what made it unusual was that David and his wife, Louise, were surrounded by their 13 children. They posted the video online, showing off what appeared to be a large, enviable family. But no one knew the despairing truth behind this seemingly happy family. Among David and Louise's 13 children, there was a 17-year-old girl named Turpin. On that day, Turpin dialed the local emergency number. She said, "This is my first time running away. I just escaped from home because I come from a family of 15. We've been abused. You need to hear this. Can you hear me? We've been abused. Paris, did you hear that? Did they hear that? They think it's a joke. They need to know. It's serious. It's happening. They pull our hair and my 2 little sisters are chained up right now. They're chained up, yes," she confirmed. After receiving the call, the police immediately dispatched officers. They found the girl, Turpin, at the street corner. "My 2 little sisters are still chained up," she repeated. "Yes, they're chained because they stole mother's food, okay? But they didn't steal it on purpose. They were just hungry." The officers noticed that Turpin was extremely nervous, thinking she was simply scared. But her explanation was even more unsettling. "I'm sorry if I talk too much," she said. "I've never talked to anyone outside before. So, I don't know how to be alone out here." The police then realized the gravity of the situation. They entered David and Louise's house. A foul odor hit them as soon as they stepped inside. Trash was piled up in every corner of the rooms. 13 children were living in these conditions. One had been chained up for several weeks. 2 others had just been released. All the children were severely malnourished. The officers were even more shocked to learn that several of these so-called children were actually adults. The oldest was already 29 years old. The oldest among them was 29 years old. But due to severe malnutrition, they appeared to be like children. They were allowed only a pitiful amount of food each day. The police also found bruises and scars covering almost their entire bodies. David and Louise even forced the children into illegal activities to make money for the household. If it weren't for the brave child who managed to escape this hellish family and called for help, it's hard to imagine what kind of desperate future awaited these 13 children. Unveiling the disturbing stories behind those videos, episode 15. Every video carries a terrifying tale. Imagine this. One day you wake up to find yourself locked inside a coffin. How utterly hopeless would that feel? Being buried alive isn't just a movie. It has really happened in real life. In January 2018, a 37-year-old married woman named Rosangela Almeida was sent by her family to a hospital in the northeastern part of Brazil, specifically to Oeiras in Piauí. According to her family, Almeida had been suffering from fainting spells of unknown origin since she was 7 years old. Thus, she had been on medication for a long time. This hospitalization was suspected to be due to exhaustion. However, during her treatment at the hospital, Almeida suffered from septic shock and to heart attacks. Ultimately, she was declared clinically dead by the hospital. The following day, her family arranged her funeral, placing her in a wooden coffin, which was wrapped in concrete and tiles. But just 2 days later, her family was still deep in grief when a terrifying message reached them. Residents living near the cemetery claimed that while walking, they heard some strange noises coming from the graveyard. Curious, they entered the cemetery to identify the source of the sounds. That's when they clearly heard what sounded like screams and dull thuds, and these noises were coming from Almeida's coffin. The residents immediately contacted Almeida's family, so they rushed over and began trying to open the concrete coffin. Once they managed to break it open, they found Almeida lying inside, completely motionless. Her forehead and hands were covered in fresh wounds. Almeida lay there, completely motionless. Her forehead and hands were covered in fresh wounds. The wooden coffin lid was marked with bloody scratch marks. Surrounding people carefully lifted Almeida out. Someone touched her foot and felt a hint of warmth. Almeida was then rushed into an ambulance, but she was not saved. Almeida was declared dead once again. This video was recorded in Mexico in 2019. In the video, a hysterical woman is seen, struggling to regain her composure, as she describes her harrowing experience to those around her. On the 18th, she was going about her daily tasks, but since the original dialogue was in Spanish, we can only understand from reports by other news media what the woman said in the video. According to several American news outlets, the woman described that she was refueling a truck. As she walked around to the back of the truck, she smelled a foul, metallic scent. Curious, she peeked through a gap in the truck's bed to see what was inside. To her horror, she found a pile of bodies, stacked like a small hill. These bodies appeared to be those of children. Ultimately, with the encouragement of those around her, the woman managed to calm down. Many online users abroad linked this incident to sinister rituals, secret societies, and the trafficking of body parts. Reports even surfaced that local authorities acted on the woman's tips. They found the truck mentioned in the video and discovered the bodies inside had been dismembered. But just a few days later, a suitcase was found near the whistleblower's home. Inside were the remains of a dismembered woman. Honestly, this story really shook me. But you know how it is with American media, with a meticulous approach. Since this incident took place in Mexico... We searched again using Spanish. The process was essentially the same. A woman indeed discovered such a truck, but the trunk was filled with living people. However, the later reports of the woman's death were mere rumors. Strangely enough, the incident faded into obscurity afterward. As for the people in the truck, there are two theories. Either they were illegal immigrants, trying to sneak into the US this way, or the vehicle was involved in human trafficking. Both scenarios are common in Mexico. In a country like Mexico, plagued by crime... It's no surprise such absurd rumors arise. In 1983, a film titled The Beyond ignited global discussions, not because of its exceptional storyline, but due to an incident associated with it. Perhaps the most tragic disaster in film history. It might just be the most catastrophic disaster in film history. The Beyond consists of several stories. Each one exists within the same universe, but they are plot-wise independent. What we're about to discuss is one of these tales. This story unfolds during the Vietnam War, focusing on a particular unnamed battle. The protagonist finds himself evading an attacking helicopter. This also marks the story's climax. As he flees in desperation, he stumbles into an abandoned village in Vietnam. There, he discovers to abandon children, just as the helicopter opens fire on him... The protagonist instinctively rushes to save the kids. He scoops them up and begins to run. Originally, the plot had him saving both children, only for the village to be obliterated by the helicopter's fire. To make this seem truly impactful, the director brought in real helicopters and to actual children, one aged 7 and the other 6. He even used twice the amount of explosives originally planned... To create the most stunning visuals possible. With everything set up, they started rolling the cameras. The impact of the explosion... caused the helicopter to lose control in midair, and the protagonist was still holding the 2 children below. Seconds later, the helicopter plummeted to the ground. The crew on board emerged relatively unharmed, but the protagonist and 1 child were decapitated, while the other child was crushed beneath the helicopter. This accident was clearly the production team's fault. Beheaded, the other child was crushed beneath the helicopter. This incident was clearly the fault of the production team. However, after lengthy legal proceedings, no one was held accountable for the tragic accident. When the film was released, this scene was cut, yet it still achieved a remarkable box office success of $40 million. The director even reached the pinnacle of his career, thanks to this film. Take a good look at this man. Have you seen him before? This is a mystery that has puzzled the internet... For over a decade, people all around the world are searching for this man. In January 2006, a psychiatrist in New York had a patient who drew a picture of a man's face. The patient claimed to have dreamt about this man frequently. In his dreams, this man often gave him various life advice, but the patient had never encountered him in real life. The doctor thought the man in the portrait had a very distinctive look, so he decided to place it on his desk. A few years later, another patient came into his office. The patient immediately recognized the face of the man from the doctor's desk. He told the doctor that he frequently dreamed about him, and the patient also stated that in real life. Additionally, the patient mentioned that in real life, he had never seen this man. The doctor sensed that this was no ordinary case. So, he made several copies of the drawing and shared them with his colleagues to see if anyone else had dreamt of him. Within a few months, remarkably, more people came forward, claiming they had also dreamt of this man, and like before, they had never seen him in real life. Fast forward 2 years to 2008. A person named Andriana Taylor created a dedicated website for this man. According to statistics from the site, over the past 2 years, more than 2,000 people around the world claimed to have dreamt of this man. The internet is also flooded with descriptions of dreams about this man, most of which are quite positive. It seems he's become a symbol of something beautiful. Of course, there are also nightmares. Among these 2,000 individuals, there's no connection or commonality, and this man appears in their dreams, playing a variety of roles. After this global phenomenon, everyone began searching high and low for information about this man in the real world, yet no trace of him could be found. As a result, theories attempting to explain this phenomenon began to emerge. Two of these theories are particularly intriguing. You might think a newborn's brain is a blank slate, but Carl Jung believed otherwise. He argued that from birth, everyone is born with a set of archetypes. These archetypes play a crucial role in how we perceive the world. Consider a smartphone that is compatible with various systems. Before you power it on, you don't know if it runs on Android or iOS. What's the difference between these systems? Their processing methods differ. The user interfaces are unique, and each has its own characteristics. What distinguishes these systems? Their processing methods vary. The user interfaces are different. Each has its own uniqueness, yet they all can make calls, play games, and send messages. This preset ... plays a decisive role in how we understand the world. Carl Jung was a renowned Swiss psychiatrist, held in high esteem in his field. However, many of his studies carry a mystical quality compared to other experts. Jung believed that personality can be divided into three parts. The most superficial layer is the personal unconscious, shaped by our everyday experiences. Deeper still is the collective unconscious, which is intertwined with the personal unconscious. The deepest layer is the collective unconscious. This collective unconscious has nothing to do with personal experiences. It resembles inherited ancestral memories. Here lies the key to discovering archetypes, unraveling the mysteries of consciousness and the origins of existence. These so-called archetypes are universal patterns and images found in the collective unconscious. Jung believed everyone inherits these archetypes, just as we inherit survival instincts. For example, religious symbols and the ubiquitous eye of providence appear across various cultures. Architectural marvels like pyramids, myths of common deities, or legends like the Great Flood. Consider deities with human bodies and serpent tails. For some mysterious reason, these have become the archetypes of all human personalities, fundamentally influencing human thought. However, it's important to note that Jung's archetypes are not simply the images or structures themselves. These have become the archetypes of all human personalities. They fundamentally influence human thought. But it's crucial to note, the archetypes Jung spoke of are not merely the images or structures themselves. They symbolize certain archetypes, not to be confused with a mere pyramid, which is just one representation. Think of it like a three-dimensional object, casting a two-dimensional shadow. For instance, the eye of providence is just that shadow of the pyramid, but you cannot say that the shadow is the three-dimensional object itself. Thus, the same archetype may manifest in chaotic ways in reality due to various factors, yet the essence remains unchanged. What it seeks to express is constant. In other words, these so-called archetypes cannot be defined by language and logic. To put it another way, they defy scientific explanation. Thus, the integration of archetype theory remains quite fringe. When applied to the explanation of this man, he is considered one of the archetypes proposed by Jung. For instance, imagine a man right now. The man you envision is actually this very man. Similarly, when you read a comment, the voice you hear while reading might just be the voice of this man. The dream surfer theory is the most influential theory. It's quite magical, yet lacks scientific backing. Supporters of this theory believe that this man is a real person who possesses a unique psychological ability to enter others' dreams. Conspiracy theorists argue that this man is part of a secret plan devised by a powerful organization. They utilize this man to appear in people's dreams and engage in conversations with the dreamers. They utilize this man to appear in the dreams of certain individuals and engage in conversations with the dreamers, or even influence their thoughts. As a result, they affect these individuals' decisions in real life. This serves the organization's dark, hidden agenda. The only problem with this theory is whether we can actually enter other people's dreams. Currently, there are two widely discussed methods for entering dreams. One is mystical, and the other is scientific. The mystical method is called astral projection, which posits the existence of something referred to as the astral body. This astral body exists between the physical and the non-physical. Consciousness can use this vessel to operate independently of the body, even allowing for out-of-body experiences. The idea of the astral body has existed for a long time and appears in various ancient cultures. The Egyptians called it the life essence, while Western mysticism refers to it as the starry flag. Native Americans call it soul flight. Native Americans refer to it as soul flight. In China, we call it the wandering spirit. When ancient practitioners meditated, whether in Buddhism or Taoism, they were actually experiencing their souls. Some believe that this man achieves this through astral projection, allowing his spirit to wander outside his body and enter the dreams of others. However, there's no solid evidence for astral projection. Most of it comes from ancient texts or peculiar stories circulating on the internet. Some experiences arise from brain stimulation therapies. or the experiences of those on replacement medications. Some individuals using replacement therapy have had intriguing experiences. We cannot determine if these people's accounts are objective. Thus, the scientific community currently categorizes psychological projection as a type of hallucination. Another method to enter someone else's dreams is through lucid dreaming. We've previously discussed how to achieve lucid dreams, so we won't cover that here. Researchers from Northwestern University have recruited numerous individuals with extensive lucid dreaming experience in laboratories around the world. Over the past 2 years, they asked these participants to indicate if they successfully entered a dream by moving their eyes horizontally. Furthermore, the researchers could establish communication between the dreamers and the outside world through the eye movements of the dreamers. This endeavor has been successfully accomplished numerous times. In other words, lucid dreamers are indeed conscious and able to respond. But if the theory of dream surfers is true, the most crucial thing is to find that surfer in real life. Unfortunately, over a decade has passed, and this man remains completely elusive. In 2012, Andrea Nutella, who created the website about this man, published a paper confirming that this man is not real. He was merely a marketing strategy. As for what the marketing content was, that was never revealed. What's thought-provoking is that, despite being a hoax, this website received over 10,000 emails from around the world in less than a year. Countless people shared their experiences about this man's dreams online. Various theories attempted to explain this phenomenon, but the content of the hoax became a reality as it evolved. This is the real question worth pondering. Andrea Nutella, why didn't you reveal the marketing content? Andrea Nutella, why didn't you reveal the marketing content? Perhaps for him, in this grand awakening, the years spent observing the situation have shown that what this man brought far exceeds mere marketing. Rather than calling it a hoax, it's more appropriate to see it as a mirror reflecting society. Have you heard of water-fueled vehicles? They use water as fuel to power vehicles, breaking it down into hydrogen and oxygen. Burning hydrogen produces energy, with only water as a byproduct. Not only is this resource incredibly abundant, but it sounds remarkably clean, with such great potential. Why hasn't it been implemented yet? In fact, this concept is not only promising, but was proposed quite early. Back in 1996, in the US and Europe, there was a man named Stanley Allen Meyer who invented the water fuel cell in Shenzhen, and even showcased a beach buggy powered by his water fuel cell. Driving this car from Los Angeles to New York, a distance of over 4,000 kilometers, only required 8.030 tons of water. This invention was incredibly exciting at the time, with many believing it would change the world. However, things did not unfold as everyone hoped. Meyer's invention was unveiled, but within less than 2 years. Meyer's invention was announced, but within less than 2 years. On March 20th, 1996, Stanley Meyer suddenly collapsed. While dining in a restaurant, he reportedly told his brother that at the time, Meyer was meeting with 2 Belgian investors. Then, Meyer suddenly ran outside and told his brother that they had poisoned him. Was someone trying to kill him? It certainly sounds like it. After this incident, some claimed that Meyer's mysterious death was a conspiracy. The most widely circulated theory was one of suppressed free energy. This implies that there exists a gang or a powerful entity, or a coalition of corporations, that, due to vested interests, is suppressing the feasibility of this technology. Pollution-free energy sources that seem most suspicious are alternative fuels linked to industrial stakeholders. For instance, academic pressure can obstruct research and production of free energy, or they might acquire patents from the holders. Some researchers even face harassment or assassination. Earlier, we mentioned Stanley Meyer as a victim of this campaign. So, is the truth really as the rumors suggest? Police reports indicate that Meyer's cause of death wasn't as his brother claimed, but rather due to high blood pressure and an aneurysm. Just 10 days later, the water fuel concept was all the rage globally, yet nearly all related products and inventions were ultimately exposed as scams. Why did this happen? The answer is quite simple. We learned in middle school that this concept violates the first law of thermodynamics. Water, much like carbon dioxide, is a fully oxidized state of hydrogen and is highly stable. Of course, we don't deny that water does have two chemical bonds that lock away some energy. Thus, the invention of water fuel is primarily claimed to utilize electricity. The claim is essentially that it utilizes electricity to break apart these two bonds through electrolysis or other methods. But the truth is, as we just mentioned, water is incredibly stable. To split these two bonds, the energy consumed far exceeds the energy produced. So this whole idea is basically like riding a donkey to find a donkey, a pointless endeavor. It's a redundant effort. Thus, the concept of water fuel is still just a concept for now. Unless we achieve some technological breakthrough, we might need to rethink our approach. Water electrolysis is meant to produce hydrogen, right? So why not use clean water directly? The combustion byproduct would be water, which is also very eco-friendly, isn't it? This concept has actually been around for quite some time, and many manufacturers have launched related products. So, why aren't we using new energy vehicles right now? First, it's a matter of cost. The new energy fuel is priced over 100 yuan per kilogram. A vehicle typically holds around 5 to 6 kilograms of fuel. When full, it can usually travel over 600 kilometers. In comparison, a 1.5T fuel car can cover 600 kilometers for less than 400 yuan. So, the cost is nearly double. Secondly, there's the issue of performance. Even if the price is much higher, people would still buy it if the performance is good, right? For example, a lightweight vehicle from Niuchu accelerates to 100 kilometers per hour in 9 seconds. Its top speed is only around 170 kilometers per hour. Of course, there are models with outstanding performance, reportedly accelerating to 100 kilometers per hour in just 2.2 seconds. But just look at the design, and you'll know it's not something the average person can afford. Thirdly, we have efficiency issues. First, factories need electricity to produce hydrogen, and then convert it into electrical energy to power the engine. Currently, the energy efficiency is only 75%. Then it's compressed, cooled, and transported to refueling stations. At that point, only about 65% remains. When input into the car, the conversion to electrical energy is only 60%. At this stage, only about 40% is left. Next, the conversion rate of electrical energy driving the car is just 95%. This means that after all these processes, the actual usable energy is only around 38%. For traditional combustion engines, efficiency hovers between 25% to 35%. It's indeed a bit higher, but when compared to electric vehicles, since electric cars use electricity directly, there's no need for any conversion, resulting in a conversion efficiency of a solid 80%. Additionally, even without considering the sourcing issues, new energy vehicles indeed emit only water. But where does the electricity needed for production come from? Exactly. This electricity, most of it, actually comes from fossil fuels for power generation. So, there is no such thing as clean energy in this world. What we should really focus on is how to utilize energy sources more efficiently. In ancient times in our country, many remarkable individuals emerged. For instance, Wang Mang, often seen as a time traveler, invented the vernier caliper, initiated land reforms, and implemented a planned economy, setting up state-owned enterprises and other actions. That seemed utterly astonishing. It felt as though these were not things one would expect from someone of that era. Then there's the enigmatic Guiguzi, a master of various schools of thought. He remained indoors, yet manipulated the dynamics of the world with his disciples. The entire realm was merely a chessboard for Guiguzi, and such a powerful figure. Today, no one knows his real name. No one even knows how long he lived. Some even doubt if he ever existed. Or take Sufu, who is said to have been a disciple of Guiguzi. He allegedly led 3,000 men and women eastward, searching for the elixir of immortality. It is said he read the Shanhai Jing and learned there were 3 immortal mountains in the east. On the immortal mountains reside deities, but once you go there, you never return. The 3 figures I'm sure you're all familiar with, but today we'll discuss another one. I believe this figure, Laozi, is even more significant with his Tao Te Ching. From the title, it sounds like a book about moral conduct, but in reality, it elaborates on the principles that govern our world. Laozi, the author, is often considered the first to grasp the true essence of this world. Indeed, after reading the Tao Te Ching, I was astounded by its depth and wisdom. No one knows for sure how long Laozi lived, because in his later years, he vanished from the public eye. The last person to see him was the guard at the Hangou Pass. Legend has it that after witnessing the decline of the Zhou dynasty, he rode a great blue ox to Hangou Pass. He left behind a profound Tao Te Ching, composed of 5,160 characters. After that, he rode his blue ox out of the pass, heading westward, and from that moment on, no one ever saw him again. He vanished into seclusion. Some say he chose to live in hiding. And here are a few theories, suggesting what might have happened to Laozi later on. Some believe that certain Buddhist ideas resemble those of Taoism, and the emergence of Buddhism occurred around the same time as Laozi's disappearance. Thus, it's thought that after leaving Hangou Pass, Laozi took Siddhartha Gautama as his disciple. Some even assert that Laozi was Siddhartha Gautama himself, suggesting that Laozi founded Buddhism. Another theory proposes that Laozi set out to find the legendary Kunlun Mountain. Historically, Laozi served as a librarian in the Zhou royal court during the Shang and Zhou dynasties, where the Shanhai Jing was preserved in the royal library. The earliest recorded mention of Kunlun Mountain comes from the Mu Tianzi Zhuan. Legend has it that King Mu of Zhou was able to locate Kunlun Mountain because he had access to a map of the mountains and seas. This Shanhai too is not the version we know today. The current version is based on the descriptions from the Shanhai Jing. The Shanhai too that King Mu of Zhou saw was a map that emerged alongside the Shanhai Jing. It's possible that the author of the Shanhai Jing created a map while writing. He might have sketched it as he wrote. This is how King Mu was able to locate Kunlun Mountain. Some believe the map existed first, which later inspired descendants to write the Shanhai Jing. This map was engraved on a wine vessel during the Zhou dynasty. As the librarian of the Zhou dynasty, Laozi naturally had many opportunities to view these treasures. For someone as learned as Laozi, seeing these artifacts must have been enlightening. He would have absorbed all of it. It must have sparked a deep fascination in Laozi with the Kunlun Mountain described in the Shanhai Jing. Even I would be captivated by it. If I could ever obtain that map, I would certainly embark on an adventure to uncover its secrets. So, what became of the Shanhai too? Throughout history, it has always been regarded as a treasure. However, it went missing during the Qin dynasty. Many believe it was taken by Qin Shi Huang to be buried with him in his mausoleum. Analyzing his actions, it's certainly possible he would do such a thing. He could have commanded the terracotta warriors while holding the Shanhai too to conquer all directions. So, perhaps if we fully excavate the Qin mausoleum, we could catch a glimpse of the true map. Many prehistoric mysteries might just find their answers. Regarding the Qin mausoleum, we'll dedicate an entire video to it later. I know there's a lot of content you all want to see. Many of you have sent me private messages, and I intend to cover most of those topics. But remember, I have to tackle them one by one. So please be patient. Previously, when we discussed the Big Bang Theory, many of you quickly pointed out how this explosion theory relates to what Laozi said. Tao produces one. One produces two, and two produces three. One produces two, and two produces three. From three, all things come into existence, bearing different names yet sharing a common essence. When I created those videos, I felt this connection too. Laozi believed that at the very beginning of our world, there existed a formless Tao. It was so profound that even he struggled to describe it with words. In any case, this Tao evolved into everything we see today. Mountains, rivers, life, planets, galaxies, and so on. How can something so formless give rise to so many tangible things? Today, perhaps we can offer a glimpse of a similar principle through the lens of programming. Take, for example, when we simulate an atomic explosion on a computer, we're not merely transforming the bomb from a state of rest to one of explosion. We're not just transitioning the atomic bomb from a state of inaction to one of detonation. During that time, every single second, every parameter is meticulously set. For instance, how bright is the explosion at 0.01 seconds? What's the temperature at 0.02 seconds? How high does the mushroom cloud rise after 15 seconds? All of this is considered.